This conference will now be recorded.
Thanks so much, Nan. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great, thanks so much. Well, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Mary Cardon, as I said, and we are here representing the Utah Industry and Innovation Center, which is part of the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So I'm going to tell you about what the center does with an emphasis on the SBIR and STTR grant opportunities that may be of help to companies within rural Utah as they are elsewhere. And for some reason, we're not advancing. There we go. The Utah Industry and Innovation Center supports key industries for the state, helping to create sustainable advantages by aligning business interests. And that's a mouthful. We have 5 divisions that are run under the direction of individuals within the Industry and Innovation Center. Advanced Manufacturing and Aerospace and Defense are under the direction of Chanel Flores. Linda Cabrales oversees financial services, as well as software and IT. And Life Science and Healthcare is overseen by April Young Bennett. So each of these people are responsible for making sure that any company within these industries is aligned with other business interests and helps them to move forward. We also oversee the more broad sector, the sector industries within a broader sense, to make sure that we're growing, that we're taking advantages of all the assistance that we can give the companies and making the sector grow. The Industry and Innovation Center is also responsible for SBIR-STTR services. Linda, April, and myself all oversee that, in addition to a new hire, Ashley King. Ashley has joined us as an outreach specialist. Today we're going to focus on the SBIR-STTR services with any questions, of course, that you have regarding the key industries that we support. The SBIR-STTR services are available only to Utah companies because, of course, we are funded through the legislature. We help in all aspects of SBIR-STTR work, helping you to reach a successful conclusion with proposals. Our win rate is better than 25%, and the national average is all in about 15%, but ranges from 14 to 17. We have helped bring nearly $42 million to Utah companies, and we are the awardee of the Tibbetts Award, which is the highest award given by the SBA in this area, Small Business Administration. The best part about the federal grants, this $3.7 billion program, is that they are non-equity funds. So for those of you who have a company that is looking to do research and development, this is an avenue that will help you to grow your technology without taking anything from your company. SBIR, we try not to have too many acronyms and make it alphabet soup, but Small Business Innovation Research Grants. These are grants, this has been in place about 38 years now. We're in 3.2% of extramural research dollars. That is any agency that spends over $100 million outside their agency in research and development has to put 3.2% of that money into this program. Its sister program, Small Business Technology Transfer, gives about just under 0.5% of budgets over $1 billion. So this all equates to about $3.7 billion annually. And again, the best benefit is that these are non-equity position dollars. You do not lose any technology ownership, you do not lose any intellectual property, and you do not have to pay back the funds. Everything remains yours. The agencies that participate in this, and this is of great interest, we're going to tell you how to look at these. Remembering that you have to spend over $100 million outside your agency, the USDA, Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, which includes NIST and NOAA. And some of us in rural Utah have some very interesting projects with water. And NOAA is always interested in this, not necessarily just oceans. The Department of Defense, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Department of Health and Human Services, which is often referred to as NIH, Homeland Security, Transportation, the EPA, Aeronautics and Space, which is NASA, and the National Science Foundation, which is often referred to as NSF. Those in bold, the big 5, are those that participate in the STTR program as well. And this is the breakdown of money. Of the $3.7 billion, $1.75 billion is with the Department of Defense on the right. On the left, the next biggest quadrant is the Department of Health and Human Services, or NIH, for just over $1 billion. They just crossed that threshold this year as Mr. Trump has increased the funding to DHHS. DOE, just under 300 million, NASA, just under 200 million, NSF, under 200 million, and all the others combined below. So the USDA, 27 million, Department of Homeland Security, 21 million, Department of Commerce, 14, Department of Transportation, 9, Education, 8, and the EPA, 4. This is a 3-phase program, so you're applying, again, competitive grants. You're applying to move your technology ahead. Originally, this was intended to help today's Thomas Edison move forward, and this is looking for very interesting projects, but also things that perhaps we're doing now that we can improve upon. So, phase 1, 6 months, anywhere from $150,000 to $225,000 to help explore the technical merit or feasibility of an idea. This is what we call the dating phase, and really, you may have proven the feasibility of your program, but you need to prove it to the agency that you're working with. So you may have to take a half step back in order to go 2 steps forward, but if you're new, then this is an opportunity to build something that can prove out your technology. So phase 1 is a dating phase. You're making sure you like them, they make sure they like you, and then you can apply to a phase 2. For the most part, you have to have a phase 1 in order to get to a phase 2. Again, think about dating. Now we're engaged. Phase 2, 750 to 1.5 million, and on an occasion more than that, for 2 years to help your research and development move forward. Generally, we think about prototyping, but oftentimes if we're in the medical device, pharma, or other research, it's going to take more than 2 years to get there. So we may just be extending our phase 1 work. Commercialization is critical to SBIRs. These are not grants that are here to help tinkers make sure that the light can go on, but they're here to make sure that the light goes on, stays on, and can be sold. So you need to present a commercialization strategy. You talk about that in phase 1, you demonstrate it in phase 2. We're going to talk about that in a while. Phase 3, somewhat of a misnomer. This is where the innovation moves into the marketplace, but not all innovations move in after 2.5 years. But phase 3 is generally you're on your own, with the exception of the Department of Defense and NASA, who are interested in buying what you have. We'll talk about that as well. Are you eligible? If your small business is for profit with 51% ownership by individuals who are citizens or permanent residents with 500 or fewer employees, which I bet we all are, then you're eligible. If you are a nonprofit, that is not eligible. And if you have VCs or a large company, venture capitalist, large company, or an angel group who owns more than 51% of the company, then you're not eligible. We have also put in, if prior SBIR awards, you have to meet performance benchmarks. We bring this up because sometimes people have participated in the past or jumping back in. If you have more than 15 phase 1s without going to a phase 2, they have you stand down for a few years before you can reapply. Generally, that's not the case, but we bring it up just to make you aware that they are looking for you to get these grants, move to phase 2, and move into commercialization. And to work with the Utah SBIR Center, you need to have a Utah business license. So again, state tax dollars at work. So questions? I'm just going to take a minute if there are any questions, Nan.
At this time, let me double check. We do not have any questions in the chat box yet.
Okay, very good. I'm just going to throw out a couple things. One thing that we want to think about is the best agency is not always the best money. So we talked about the 11 agencies that participate. We saw that the DoD has almost $2 billion. Department of Health and Human Services, a little over $1 billion. But EPA, just 8. But what I have is a product that's going to make the air a better quality. I could apply to the DoD. I think they're going to need it somewhere. You want to apply to the EPA. You always want to apply where they're most interested in your technology. We also want to make sure you remember 51% owned by individuals. And yes, it is really true that they do not take equity or IP from the company. So how do you go about finding these? The agencies themselves put out what are called solicitations or calls for proposals. Anybody who has perhaps participated with PTAC and is engaged with the government in selling your product to an agency or a department within the US government has participated in calls for proposals. These solicitations, however, come out 20 to 26 times a year. They differ in timing and they can differ from year to year. Some have one, some have multiple, and they appear at any time. One of the reasons you want to be on our mailing list is because we send out a notice within 24 hours of when a solicitation comes out, assuming those are on a business day. So you're aware that they're coming out and you can take a look and see if there's anything there. And what you're going to look for is topics within that solicitation. Some of these are very, very specific, and they're generally a contract. That is all the Department of Defense with some nuances, and NASA. Some are very broad, which are grants, and that is not the DoD. We're just mentioning that. And some are both. So you want to pay attention to this. We can help you to guide. I want to tell you that the National Science Foundation is just about game for anything. They are here to make sure that the next great invention moves forward. They do not have too many restrictions on what can apply for, and we can help you to look at those. So is your technology eligible? When this very first came out, we have language here from the original legislation. Important or critical inventions and innovations that may not be, there's a word missing, may not be considered by other types of venture funding. High risk, early stage, that's what this was intended for. Examples of what came out of this are the GPS system, the Qualcomm chip, flying car, the robot that cleans your carpets. We mention a flying car because that has started about 13 years ago through a SBIR program and is today becoming a reality. I think we have another 20 years or so, but I think we're going to see those. But they also wanted a better life vest. Now, a better life vest isn't high risk, it's not early stage. But within the Department of the CDC, they said, hey, 10,000 people a year are dying because they're not wearing a life vest. And they're not wearing a life vest because they're cumbersome and ugly, so they're drowning. So let's come up with a better life vest to help these people. And for 3 years, this was a topic within the Department of Health and Human Services, CDC. And they've invented it. It's we don't know quite where it is in the market, but it's come forward. So you don't want to self-select out. Talk to one of us, make sure that you have a technology that is moving forward, and you can always look at the topics to find something, but we say you're never out of the picture. There's always something there, assuming that you're actually doing research and development to make it go forward. So you can find all of these at SBIR.gov. We have a screenshot here, and what you'll do is you'll go to the topic areas. You can see that a little bit in the blue area right in the center. SBIR.gov is run by the SBA, Small Business Administration, where SBIR-STTR funds are all sequestered. One of the reasons that we think that we have a better win rate is that we highly encourage anyone working with us to find a champion, which means contacting the program officer that's responsible for the area that you're looking at. Remembering that this is their job. They are here to help you with your SBIR-STTR. You want to begin a two-way dialogue and perhaps create your own SBIR. They don't know everything. They don't know everything that's going on, and your invention could be something that they say, oh my goodness, let me see if I can't create a topic for that. That means other people are going to apply, but you'll have the opportunity to do that as well. So this is a two-way conversation that you want to create with those that are putting out the topics, and those names are generally within that solicitation. We can also help with that. What you're going to do is send them a 2-page summary. This takes the place of what we say is that 15-minute conversation when you're in a convention and you meet somebody in the hallway just as you're going into another plenary, and you say, hi, this is what I do, this is who I do, and he said, wow, this is very interesting, here's my card, can we talk later? That's what you're doing here, so you're not wasting time. You're going to send this to the champion that you find with less than 2 pages, discovering this 4 areas. What is the innovation? What are your technical objectives and challenges? What is the market opportunity? And what is the company and team? Within the National Science Foundation, this is becoming a requirement. You actually send this in. It's called a project pitch, and it's given a go, no go. 90% of the people that submit a project pitch get a go, but some do not. And we can always read this for you. But what you're doing, again, is giving the program director an opportunity to learn about your company before you pick up the phone or before you start an email, so that you can start at a place of importance and move forward on what you want to do in your project and how it can best benefit that agency. It becomes a two-way conversation. A key element and a requirement for all SBIRs is that your principal investigator, the person who's going to be responsible for the process and the proposal, the work that's being done there, has to be a significant part of the company. They must be employed by the business. They cannot work full-time elsewhere during the time of the award. This is very critical. Again, they don't want tinkerers. They want somebody who's very dedicated to the work, who understands what it's going to do and works at the company full-time. You cannot work full-time elsewhere. They can work less than full-time, 19.6 hours or less elsewhere. And we often get the question, is a PhD beneficial to the National Science Foundation or the Department of Health and Human Services? And the answer is, if they have the right experience. If you're putting in a PhD just to have a PhD in there, that's not going to be beneficial. But all your team members need to be people who can contribute to the work, and to, if not the actual project work, then are they benefiting the marketing, the regulatory, bringing it to market? So principal investigator, or a PI, which is a word that you will learn in the SBIR world, must be employed by the business, must work for the company 51% of the time during the time of the award. This does not have to happen when you apply, but if you get the award, it does need to be true, and you will say that in your proposal. Notice that this says SBIR. That is not true for STTR. In STTR, we're going to go into that in just a bit, but that involves a requirement to work with a research institution. That research institution, generally a university, can be the PI. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. The other parts of your team, your scientists, your engineers, your innovators. Do you have experts in industry that can serve as advisors? Business people who can serve as advisors as well? Because maybe you don't need them just now, but in the years to come, you're going to need to have somebody who will serve as an advisor for you now, but then come on to the company perhaps when you're ready to move into marketing or regulatory. You're always looking to the future, and you're always writing about it in your SBIR and STTR, adding sentences here or there that show them you know you need to move to this pathway, making sure that they understand you've got that in hand. We always like to think of the Utah Industry and Innovation Center as part of your team, as we work closely with you in making sure that your proposal will be the best it can be. So, SBIR and STTR, what are the differences? There are three areas: partnering, work requirement, and the principal investigator over to the left. In SBIR, partnering is permitted. You may not have all the expertise on your team. You may need to hire somebody outside your company to do some of the work, which you can do up to 33% of the money in a phase 1 and up to 50% in a phase 2. But again, the principal investigator must be with the small company. And STTR requires partnering. This is a partner with a nonprofit research institution, again, generally a university. In Utah, those are BYU, University of Utah, and Utah State University. But you can partner with any U.S. institution. This also includes federal labs with some minor exceptions. What happens in an STTR is the small business must receive 40% of the work. The research institution must receive 40% of the work. And when I say work, I mean that's as defined by the budget. And then the remaining 30% is up for grabs. So that's a work requirement. And you will work out the intellectual property agreement with that research institution. So that's a twist there. SBIR, the federal government, isn't going to take anything from your company, but when you start working with a research institution, they're going to say, wait a minute, we're working with you on this. If we invent something, we want this. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to take this, and it's a negotiation. It can be just fine. These happen all the time, but just making you aware. Also on an STTR, the PI can be employed by either the research institution or the small business. The exception to this is the National Science Foundation. We do not know how they've got around it, but they say, no, no, no. SBIR, STTR, the PI must be with the company. So some nuanced differences and nothing you need to remember right now. We can tell you and help you as you move forward. We do often get the question, hey, who has the better win rate? And the answer is they're about the same, but you're going to apply for the avenue that best suits your project. If your project is best suited, you need perhaps some engineering equipment or a wind tunnel that a university can provide you, then that might be the better way to go. And if not, SBIR may be fine. You may not have a PI right away. You may have to use a university professor. That's fine. You get to work out the IP and work forward. So let's look at your project. There's no one size fits all with SBIR-STTR, and we can help you with all the nuances. So any other questions coming up as yet, Nan?
Let's see. Not yet.
Okay. I know we're throwing a lot at you. If you have anything, let me just go through a couple things. Reminding you to find a champion. Find somebody who's really going to help you. I will, a very, very quick story is one of our favorites. Our client is essentially inventing a new way to manufacture skin substitute, and his marketing was going to be for burn. He was starting with burn patients. So he had some plastic surgeons on his advisory board. He worked closely with Dr. He himself is not an MD, biomedical degree. And when we spoke with the Department of Health and Human Services champion, that we were the innovation team was on the call, silent, and everyone knew we were there. The champion said, neonatal, how does this work with neonatal? He said, well, I'm not there yet. Neonatal, we heard neonatal 3 times. At the end of the call, they asked us for any questions. And I said, am I hearing neonatal because this is critical? And that question had not been asked. And the gentleman said, yes, it is. It would be very, very helpful to us if we had a neonatal aspect. Now, our person was not looking to go into neonatal as a marketing plan, but he recognized the need, and he and the champion had further conversations, and he pivoted to create a neonatal product first and allowed him to move forward and go into marketing. Now, those are business decisions you make. You may or may not do them, but it was critical to that particular champion and to the needs of his department and the Department of Health and Human Services to move forward. So those are the kinds of things that you can find out. The principal investigator cannot work full-time elsewhere. Why? Because we don't want tinkerers, right? We want people that are really, really involved. And who can help with all the questions? Well, we like to think we can, so we hope that we can do that for you as you require. Commercialization, I've mentioned, is critical. The 4 elements of commercialization that we look for is what's your market, and you want the US as well as the world, but these are US dollars. This is our tax dollars coming back to us, so let's do that. And of course, whatever's going to happen in the world. Value proposition is how you're going to make money. What's the plan? And plans change just the minute that we put them down in ink. But let's put down the plan as best we know. Who are your customers? How are you going to get to them? How is it that do you have somebody on your staff that's familiar with this kind of work? Are you going to hire that person? Are you going to hire a person? Those are things that we discuss. And of course, who's your competition? One of the things we will tell you, and we have seen it regularly, is no one is doing this now. That's likely true, but it's getting done now. And whatever is getting done now is your competition. So a kiss of death is this isn't being done now, and it's eyes roll and you move to the bottom of the pile. So we always want to have strong areas of competition, and of course, why yours is better. So in phase 1, as I mentioned, the dating phase, we are looking for ideas to benefit America. This commercialization path has to be included in phase 1. So you're going to demonstrate that you have an understanding of the market, that you understand who your competition is, who are potential partners, and letters of support. Letters of support do not say, oh my goodness, Mary Cardon is so amazing. She does a great job and we really think she can do this well. No, they are in support of buying, bringing this to market, helping you to get that way. I have been involved with company XYZ. I understand what they are doing, and my company will be willing to support them if this product comes to fruition. These are non-binding letters, but they are real. They're on their letterhead, signed by the highest official we can get. In the National Science Foundation, we'll tell you you won't win without them. You're allowed 3, and you simply won't win. Competition's too tough. Again, they do not say, I'm going to buy $1 million worth of goods. That doesn't happen, but we're very interested, and we're a company in this space, so it shows that you have a potential pathway. In phase 2, it's a different game. You get to present this. This is generally a 12-page document. You're going to show your commercialization pathway. You're going to talk about how you're going to license or manufacture. Again, letters of support, remembering that this is 40% of the reason you win a phase 2. Now, there are nuances throughout this program. The letters of support in the DoD are not as important. Very, very important to work with us. Make sure that you know that they're not as critical because they know what they're going to do with it for the most part. But they are in other areas, including National Institutes of Health and NSF and DOE, Department of Energy. So how can you spend the money? This is the fun part. You will likely spend the vast majority of the money on salaries and fringe benefits. You are allowed to replace supplies and lease equipment. You will put in overhead. You are running a company. And you can spend money on consultants. Again, 33% in phase 1, 50% in phase 2, and if it's an STTR, a minimum of 40% to the research institution. A critical matter that we have here at the bottom, fee profit, 7%. This is 7% of the total monies that you can spend on anything. So we beg and plead for you to put this at 7%, hold it there, never let it go because they never ask how that money is being spent. You can spend that on to increase some salaries, you can spend that on equipment, you can spend that on legal fees, but we want you to keep it there and you can spend it outside the company. You can take a vacation, you can do whatever you want, but that we beg you to keep that at 7%. What you cannot spend the money on, and we have asterisks we're going to talk about in just a minute, are lawyers and patents, marketing. This is not to build your company. This is research and development for your technology. You can't buy a computer, you cannot construct a building, and you cannot create a lab. Travel is very, very tricky. We have lots of people say, wait, I need to go to a convention to show this. Well, that 7%. 7% is what it can use for, but not part of the research and development. The SBIR program has come to understand that there is a need for technical and business assistance, that we need help with legal, we need help with marketing. So they have just created, just last year, TABA, which allows us to be used for some of the no expenses to include market research, marketing, legal, and patents. And patents are so expensive. So this has been helpful. Phase 1, it's about $6,500. Phase 2, $50,000. So some good money. This pays for technical assistance or commercialization contractors. It has to be outside your company. This is not money that comes back in, but folks that may be helping you even with marketing or lawyers, or you may have a outside contractor to help explore opportunities within a new area of expertise. This varies by agency. The funds sometimes are within the budget, sometimes they're external, and sometimes they're not offered at all. You have to request it in phase 1 in order to receive it. So we make you aware of which agencies have it and when, and this is pretty quickly evolving. But again, not every agency has it, but it's nice to have a little extra money to help you there. So your next steps, we want you to engage us to help you better propose and understand where you're going. We can review your executive summary. We can offer you a consultation at any time. And I also want to say that we provide a checklist of required tasks, which synthesizes down these often 300-page documents to what's required and where. You can find them with links to the documents themselves. We're going to talk about registrations in a minute, as well as, and we can also help you with the search for topics. So registrations, I'm not going to go through all of this, but they take up to 8 weeks. This is registering with the federal government. And as my colleague April Young Bennett likes to say, this isn't you being slow, it is the federal government. That just takes time. So in order to start, you need to have a business license and a checking account in your company name. You will then register with DUNS if you haven't already. That's an overnight process, pretty simple. The one that takes more time is the System for Award Management, SAM. That just takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And without it, you, for the most part, cannot apply. So we urge you to get on that starting today. The one thing that we will tell you that has been a stopper for quite a few people is if you register, if your name, company name, is Happy Times Inc., period, with capital H, capital T, capital I, period after the Inc., that's exactly how it should be from DUNS to SAM. So don't leave off the period after Inc. If you have LLC and it's L period C period, if that's what's in DUNS, make sure that's what's in SAM, because these are computers and they do not recognize it. They think you're two different companies. So that's something that people do, very much a human error. Once you're through all of that, you can register with grants.gov, which is one more registration, the SBA, and then you can register with your agencies of high interest, but you do need to be all the way through SAM in order to do that. So give yourself some time, get started now so that when a topic comes up, you're ready to go.
Mary, we do have a question.
Most certainly.
So are any of these post-performance, or does the government send the money up front and you then report it?
The money, for the most part, the money is, let's see, all grants, the money is sent. 80% of the money is up front, 20% of the money is held back until your final report. The Department of Defense works on deliverables and pays generally monthly. So you will turn in your hours to them on a contract basis with X number deliverable, and then they pay you for what you've done thus far. That answer the question?
Thank you.
Just a note that beginning in December, the DUNS number is going to be replaced by a unique entity identifier. This will happen automatically. We suggest you register with DUNS now. Our agency is registered with SAM. We expect this to go very smoothly, but it's just nice to get it out of the way. But we're just letting you know a change is coming. Reality check. These take 200 hours of your time, and we've checked time and time again. We know that this is true. And your second, third, and fourth are 150. It takes a great deal of time to get this, quote unquote, free money. They're a lot of work. We're here to help, but we just want you to know this isn't a weekend project. This takes a great deal of time to get done. We help you with that by offering you project timelines, and this is just to give you an idea. This certainly 6 weeks is about what you have with the Department of Defense, so we put that out. And again, these come and go sometimes very quickly. Some of them are out the whole time. National Science Foundation, you can apply any day. The Department of Health and Human Services is out once a year with 3 deadlines. Next one is September 8th. After that, it is January 5. So what we say is in the first week, you're going to contact us, the program manager, hopefully you've already been in contact with, and you begin the submission process. Then what we want you to do is outline the project so that you know who you've got to contact, where your gaps are, where you need to help. We want to get that underway very quickly because you need to get out letters of support and letters for consultants as well. Then you start on the technical proposal because you've got a skeleton. You start moving on that, adding some meat to the bone. You draft ancillary documents, which we can help you with. We can help you with some of the things that are inside of there and give them to you for your edits. Then you start with the budget and justification. That's a long week. In week 4, you're offering the final ancillary documents and you're getting your letters of support back while we are going through your documents. In week 5, you have a final draft, technical proposal and budget, and the submission site is beginning to check. At the very end, and I offer this to you, all of this can be good advice for any grant, but at the very end, you're going to write your narrative summary. This is usually a 30-line document that summarizes your project. And what we tend to do is we do that very first thing. You know what? I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to knock this out. Boom, done. The problem is what you thought about in week 1 and what you know to be true in week 6 is very different, and it isn't as clean. And the narrative is what the reviewers see first. So we want that to sparkle. We want that to be every word strong and to tell them everything they need to know about your team, your market, how you're going to get there, what you're going to do, and why your innovation is different. 30 line is really tough. That can take you a few hours, and we can read it. So we want you to do that at the end when you really know your project. Then you do a final document check, you submit, and you rest. Again, you often have a little more time than this, but for the most part, I think we all know human nature, and we tend to do things as close to deadline as we can. But again, 200 hours, and you want to include the Utah Industry and Innovation Center on your team. So how does the money come? If there's a release today, we submit a proposal, say in 6 weeks. We are awarded within 3 to 6 months, and ladies and gentlemen, it's generally closer to 6 months, so you're waiting. Long wait period. After 6 months for an SBIR, 12 months for an STTR, you send in your final report and you're eligible for a phase 2. You've been talking with that program director, so you have an idea of where she or he wants you to go. You submit your phase 2, and often this is within 1 month of the final report. Final report takes a lot of time. This takes a lot of time. It's tough. Then we're in the valley of death. We're waiting. We don't have any SBIR funds. We're waiting for phase 2. It's annoying, which is the calmest word I can use. Your phase 2 comes a little quicker. Well, it's a lot more money, but it comes 6 to 8 months after the submission. And again, that is anywhere, pardon me, from $750,000 to $1.5 million over a 2-year period. After 2 years, they're talking about commercialization. There's no federal money. What? I'm not ready. My product isn't ready. What am I going to do? You're going to continue to apply, as these cute little arrows show, for SBIR funds. There, you can have multiple wins, no problem. It just has to be for different projects. So what will you do after you win? 2 to 7 updates based on the agency. Generally, honestly, it's 2, one sort of midway and one at the end, but DOD may require more. You always want to talk about your progress. You always want to talk about your dollars, and you always want to inform your contract manager of everything you're doing, because that contract manager is a very, very good friend of yours. You will keep the money separate. QuickBooks works, but keep your federal dollar separate and spend it as you say you would. Here's what's out now. The Department of Defense has DARPA and Air Force both due Monday. EPA is due August 28th. The Department of Energy topics are released now. There's an FOA out on the 10th, meaning the topics will be out next Monday, and they do require a letter of intent. So you have to send it. You can be rejected, but if without that, they won't. They can say, hey, we don't think you're responsive. When you say, okay, I'm still going to apply. So you want to get that in right away. National Science Foundation is available at any time. Project pitch is required to be approved, and Health and Human Services, as I mentioned, September 8th, next date, then January 5, April 5, and USDA is due October 1st. We do want to mention that next week is SBIR Week in the Rockies, and on August 10th, we are going to host a virtual meeting of 8:45 to 1:30 with panel discussions from the leaders in many of the agencies, I can't say each agency, that will present some of the latest and greatest in the SBIR world. This was intended to come to the state. We were going to host it at the Miller campus at Salt Lake Community College in Salt Lake. But of course, due to the pandemic, it is now virtual. You can register at bit.ly/SBIR week. It is there. What we cannot do anymore is they used to have until the 3rd one-on-one appointments with federal program managers. But what we're telling folks is register and see if there's any openings, because it can't hurt. Now you're going to have a quad chart that's explained in the registration that describes what you have. But if you've got something that's of interest, it cannot hurt. So bit.ly/SBIR week, Register is no cost. And the information you'll learn on Monday is certainly valuable. The 12th is the day for the one-on-one meetings, if we can get anybody else in. They're starting to schedule. We have sent in our list, and those are all being assigned now, so can't hurt. But again, free, and certainly Monday's effort is great. So we can help you with the consultation, help you with solicitation search, and then we provide guidance, evaluation, editing, and submission. What we do not do is write. We have found that the passion that you bring and the understanding that you have for your product serves to make the best proposal. If you will engage with us, we will tell you that we'll help you and help you understand what we're suggesting. Everything we suggest is just that, all up to you. Anything that we suggest these are always your grants. So this is our team. Our contact information is here. Anything that you need, we're here for you. And I'd like to thank everyone and open now for questions.
Thank you, Mary. That is an incredible amount of great information. We so much appreciate this. There is a question. Could you tell us a little bit about a project, maybe a favorite of yours, that you actually watched from the very beginning in phase 1 through to commercialization?
We have more than one. I'll tell you one that I think is of particular interest, and it's on the cusp right now, and that is a woman who has a master's degree in, I'm going to tell you, childhood education. She's a teacher, and as she was teaching and working with autistic children, she discovered a way that would help them interact and participate in the world very simply. It almost seemed too simple. She's like, what's going on? She is not a scientist. She is not an engineer. She is a well-equipped teacher, extraordinary brain. And she came to us with this idea of an app that helps parents and teachers work with their autistic children 10 minutes a day, and the improvements were remarkable and had to do with eye contact. We worked with her closely and guided her through all of the things that she had to do, because she's going to be working with people. She needed to, that was going to be a clinical trial. Working with kids is even more difficult. And of course, she had to learn a lot on the business side. She had some expertise that she brought into that. She won a phase 1 National Science Foundation. She then won a phase 2. She's now finishing that phase 2. The app is up and going. It's called Teaching It Right. Andrea is her name, and it's an extraordinary story of somebody who passion has carried this forward. She is well underway. It is quite extraordinary to see this happen. We have had others that are more engineering scientific in nature that have collected a strong team. We have several organizations that have come out. They have finished their master's program or their PhD program and decided that they wanted to become entrepreneurs, and those are becoming very successful, as well as folks who are perhaps they have been working with a larger firm, Mostech or L3 or Northrop Grumman, and they're in composites. And they say, you know what, I can do this. I mean, they're paying people. I have invented a better way to make composites. I have invented a better way to make this manufacturing. I have a better way of doing this. And they have moved out, started their own company, and we have some expertise going on that as well. We have quite a few. We're hesitant to throw out names because we do keep confidentiality, but Andrea has given us the approval. So
great story. Let's make another call for any questions in the chat box. Again, we are recording this session, and we will be placing the recording, which includes the slide deck, on the ORD webpage next week.
And let me take an opportunity as well. As you look at this last slide, you see that April is responsible for healthcare and life sciences, that Chanel is responsible for aerospace, defense, advanced manufacturing, that Linda is responsible for software IT and financial services. And we all carry responsibilities for SBIR. But if you have interest in those areas as well, then reach out to these folks and let's see what we can do to help move your company along, as well as SBIR.
Well, Mary, we don't have any additional questions. We've got a couple compliments in there for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Great information. So last call again for any questions. Everyone's saying thank you. So Mary, we so much appreciate this insight.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll call this webinar a great win. And again, we'll place the recording on our website next week. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Nan.